Not on yet.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to Alta Live. It takes a hot minute for our Zoom audience to fill in. And while that happens, I get to do a really fun introduction for all of you. Hello and welcome to Alta Live. We have such a show for you today. Alta Live is the digital event series we do here at Alta Journal. I'm Beth Spotswood, Alta's digital editor. Today, I am so excited to welcome world-renowned photographer Gordon Wiltsie. Gordon is an award-winning photographer, writer, and explorer who has led and documented extreme mountaineering, dog sledding, skiing, and other expeditions to some of the world's most remote mountain and polar regions. He is also noted for his photography of vanishing cultures, and his images have appeared in scores of magazines, including National Geographic. He is the author of To the Ends of the Earth, The Adventures of an Expedition Photographer. While Gordon has covered both the North and South Poles and thousands of wild adventures in between, one of his most recent and challenging assignments was photographing California's invasive and elusive wild boars. In our current issue, which is right here, the incredible writer and frequent Alta contributor Denise Hamilton reports on the surprisingly alarming issue of feral pigs in California. Denise's coverage is great, and we're going to link to it in our chat because you've got to read this story. It is as wild as these pigs. Often on Alta Live, we focus on a reporter and dig into kind of more facts about the story. But today, especially as Denise's reporting on this is so inclusive and robust, I wanted to interview our photographer, Gordon, on what turned out to be a really intense and challenging assignment. Denise did the fantastic writing, and then Gordon had to go out and find these pigs in real life. So today's a little bit of a twist on the usual Alta Live. We're going to meet the guy that kind of brought this story to visual life, and it turned out to be a doozy of an assignment. A little housekeeping. If you're unfamiliar with Alta, we are an award-winning quarterly magazine and website focused on California and the West. If you like what we do here today, these kind of stories, this kind of amazing talent, I hope you'll check us out, and you can consider joining Alta as a member for as little as $3 a month. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. Ask questions for Gordon. We're going to chat and look at some pig photos, don't worry, for about 30 minutes, and then get to as many of your questions as we can. This interview will be recorded and posted to altaonline.com later today. We're also going to shoot you an email with a link to this video. Let's get the chat started. I love seeing where everyone is zooming in from today, so please let us know where you are coming from. I'm in Novato, California, north of San Francisco. Gordon, where are you?
I'm in Montero, California, just next to Moss Beach, south of San Francisco, right on the coast here. It's a wonderful small town.
You have done a number of Ukiah, Montreal, Quebec, Franklin, Tennessee. Hi, Danville. Oh, this is great. We've got a nice crowd today. Lawrence, Kansas, PA, Oregon. This is fantastic.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, everyone. Glad you tuned in.
Thanks, everyone. So my first question to you is, you've done a number of pieces for Alta, but when you were presented with this assignment, when our creative director, John Gecky, reached out to you and said, Gordon, what about going and capturing the wild boars of California? You hesitated. Can you tell me why?
Well, I actually hesitated a couple of weeks before I took the assignment because I had to find people who would talk to me and cooperate with me. And wild boars, I barely even knew they were there, much less how to find them. And one of my friends actually has hunted wild boars, and everything was very discouraging, that you could only find them in the wee hours, early dawn and dark, and they smelled people so well, and then they're terrified of people and they just disappear, that I had to make sure that I had some way to get close to them before I took the story.
And so how did you ensure, the just a couple of facts as we dive into this. In Denise's article, we learned that there are approximately 100,000 feral pigs living throughout California. It's impossible to know the official number, but it's a lot. They are big. These aren't adorable little pigs. They can weigh up to 500 pounds. They're 5 feet long. And they are breeding at a feverish pace, unchecked. So, and they're really difficult to track, count, and study, and presumably photograph. So how did you kind of work your way around this issue of, we got to get pictures of pigs and they're hard to capture? How did you do it?
Well, I thought I could get pictures of government efforts to control them and what they were doing, but that was pretty iffy. Finally, I realized that I could hire a hunting guide, because they do, the state has encouraged hunting them, and they pig tag is free and you can get as many as you want. You come home with a freezer full of pork, which is supposedly pretty good. And it's a growing trend for people from even San Francisco. There are a lot of boars in the hills all around us, and there are a few local guides. And if you Google boar hunting, I was surprised by how many people I found.
While we're talking, let's get some visuals right away. So these wild boars, which are, again, incredibly invasive, and kind of wreaking havoc throughout the state. I kind of find them adorable. Let's take a look.
Yeah, he's a pretty cute one, and he's spotted me there and is about to take off.
Where is this?
This is in the hills above Castro Valley.
Oh, wow. So the burbs.
Yeah. I missed one picture I really wanted was to set up a picture of the hunter, not really shooting them, but in the background was I-580 with cars jamming and it was all in the same location.
Did you just stumble across this, quite frankly, adorable pig?
No, I did not stumble across it. I found a hunter and a rancher who sometimes feeds the pigs. And so I was able to get close enough for some of the close-ups.
Why are they feeding the pigs?
Because if this is a controversial practice, he feeds them and then they get fat and go up in the wild, and then he shoots them. Or he doesn't shoot them, his guides, his clients shoot them.
So people pay, including you, we hired a guy to take you out there, and it's kind of a big business. You can have a curated boar hunting or elk hunting or deer hunting, etc. experience. Yeah, for $800 or $1,000. And then what do people do with if someone's out there? And are people shooting them in the hills above Castro Valley?
Yes.
Jesus, it's awfully close to the freeway.
It does seem awfully close to home, but I mean, the guides know which way to shoot it. It's private land and it's quite a ways away from suburbia. How big was this? This looks small to me, but this is a little one. I bet this is 200 pounds. Well, I know nothing about pigs. I've had nothing to do with pigs, but I was thinking this morning, wait a second. I've always believed that if you're going to eat meat, that you ought to be able to kill it. And so when I was on my first trip to Germany, I visited a family and they had their pig and they were slaughtered for the winter meat. And that's my only encounters with pigs before.
All right. So these are the pigs that are this is a bunch of piglets. Havoc. Yeah. I mean, look at what they're doing to that hillside. And as they get bigger, they have tusks. You can get a group of these called a sounder, which might be 12, 15 hogs together. Well, in San Jose, there's a golf course that was spending like $50,000 a year, or I'm not sure, maybe it was more than that. A herd would go through and a fairway or a green would just look like a disc harrow had been down it. Right. And I want to grab, as we kind of look at this image, just grab a sentence or two from this article. Wild pigs wreak havoc throughout California. They carry diseases, pollute water sources, break fences, destroy irrigation drip lines, erode soil, and threaten national food safety. They may have contributed to a 2006 E. coli outbreak traced to raw spinach that killed 5 people. So while personally I find these pigs adorable and would hate for them to be harmed, these are dangerous, not only for the delicate ecosystems that they, kind of inhabit and tramp all over, like wetlands and agricultural areas, farmlands, but they're harming our food sources. So, and I'm sorry, where is this exactly?
This is above Castro Valley.
Oh, we're in the same. God, I can't. Now, how were you able to? I thought that these pigs tend to be nocturnal. How were you able to?
I don't know why they were out. I think he feeds them in the day.
That's mentioned in the article that some people feed them as a means of kind of getting them to come close and then kill them. There are lots of laws about killing these feral pigs because they're listed as game animals, not pests. So it becomes very difficult. This is a very feral pig. All right, where is this? This looks like we're in a farm.
This is the same place, but we're not on a
Really?
farm. That's mud they've mucked up in the wallow there. They were doing that up
close.
Again, I'm at that same place.
Are you zooming in, or are you really?
Oh yeah, I'm zooming way in here.
Are these dangerous animals?
Yeah,
no joke.
Like if you got between a sow and her piglets, or he or she felt threatened, they have charged people.
Wow.
And I think they've hurt people too. I mean, look at that tusk. He could really do some damage with that.
Looks like a mellow pig to me. So when you're out here, when you receive an assignment like this, we have this story on what feral pigs are doing to the state of California. Do you have a list of like images you need to get in your mind?
I did make a list, and that before I took the assignment, I thought, well, can I get this? Can I get that? And one of the elements that I wanted to get was people from Department of Fish and Game or the U.S. Wildlife Service they do have programs trapping them, but I mean, it's like, it's a bloody job, and I think that they don't want to have anything to do with it. I'd rather do it on the QT. They offered to let me use their pictures, were absolutely horrible.
Why were they horrible?
Oh, they were just like iPhone shots. A tiny pig in a cage, and this is Wilbur, and he is a pet.
I'm sorry, this is a pet? Whose pet is this?
This is the rancher's pet. It's called Wilbur, and he's huge. And I mean, I was scared to death of him. It turns out he's very sweet and loves to be petted. And what he was doing here was expecting me to give him some corn.
Oh, did you?
No, I didn't.
You had the camera.
He was scary.
I like this little guy. This is the feature image on the whole story. He's adorable.
Isn't he cute?
Yes. Is that one of the reasons? The numbers, it looks like that, there are 70 to keep the pig population in check, to keep the feral pig population in check in California. 70,000 pigs would need to be killed each year, whereas less than 5,000 are killed a year. Is that because we tend to find animals like this adorable?
I don't think it's so much that. Let's see, I forgot the question.
Well,
sorry.
There's a lot of hesitation, I think, for government agencies who realize this is a problem to
exactly that.
change policy because they're worried about animal rights organizations, people who are like, how could you kill this adorable? How could you mass kill?
Yeah, PETA, and I can't imagine shooting this thing here, but a big tusk one I could imagine. But the problem, I don't think the problem is so much that they're afraid of. There just isn't a creative way to go about it. And it's going to take some real out of the box thinking and actual leadership from somebody in the state to say, and I think Alta will help because it raises awareness that this problem is out there. And most of your readers probably had no clue that this was going on so close to home. And so it's going to take a political will of some kind to face the problem and figure out what to do about it.
Now, who's this?
This is my hunting guide, Sean Chittum.
And where are
what
you?
he's
This is
doing-
clearly not Castro Valley.
No, this is up in Trinity Alps near Reading. And here I was looking for bona fide wild hogs. So just on the off chance, John Gecke, the art director, did understand that I might come home with nothing, which I almost did. Here he's scanning. He's looking through his binoculars all the time. He's a very cool guy. He grew up in this area, and he was hunting since he was a baby practically. And by age 16, he was supporting himself, guiding people onto these ranches to shoot boars and deer. And now he travels all over the world doing it. Really, solid environmentalist, steward of the land.
And so you said you were a little bit nervous that like, oh God, I've accepted this assignment. We've hired a guide. What if I can't get the real legit pictures of the wild boars?
That was my biggest hurdle in taking, is I wanted that picture. Or
the picture of it. Let me try and let's find let me get you a good wild boar picture. You needed like the really feral pig to sell this. That was kind of the top of your list of images to get.
I mean, at least something to show them in the wild and, in a place that they really don't belong. And it was a miracle that I got the pictures I did, actually. We'd been hunting and driving a Polaris Ranger, little ATV. This one. I mean, look at this hill he's going. And here where we've been circling around, we had been there that morning and driven through here, and you can even see our tracks. But look at the foreground. All these pigs have been through there since we had a few hours earlier, and we couldn't find hide nor hair or anything of them.
Do you think, pigs are elusive. They can hear you coming, presumably, and then run off and hide?
They smell you coming. We should go to the pictures of the ones we actually saw in the wild. The green back. Oh, this is what they do.
Okay, wait, back here.
Yes. Yeah. Finally, Sean spotted these off in the distance, and we sneaked up as close as we could get. And I've got my 500mm lens. And here is an actual sounder in the wild grazing, and why they were out there that time of day, I have no idea. But somebody was on my side here.
I was shocked that it's so different. Considering that they're so invasive, they're so populous throughout the state. It's interesting that it's such a challenge.
Interestingly, we were talking about sense of smell, and we spent about an hour, and I shot a whole bunch of pictures in different scenes. And then I just felt this little breeze on the back of my neck, and it was headed towards them. And all of a sudden they were just gone, ran up the hill and disappeared because they figured out we were there. But we were definitely close enough to shoot them.
You mean shoot them with a gun?
Yeah.
As opposed to a camera.
Right.
What's happening here?
They're setting up, they monitor what animals are tracking to the ranch to see. And so these are set up at hog walls, and it enables them to count hogs. It's sort of their way of monitoring and finding them.
And now, is this Sean?
This is Sean.
Was he really shooting?
No, he's not really shooting. But I needed this is one of the pictures I needed was some kind of hunting picture, and I didn't really want somebody to shoot one.
Shoot a pig. I feel like and this is clearly some suburban, a lovely suburban home.
Yeah, this is over the hill in Moraga.
Oh, someone's very expensive lawn in Moraga has been destroyed by pigs.
Well, this whole street was torn up.
And this happens at night. You go to sleep with your
You go to
lovely lawn.
sleep and you wake up, and even Sean up in Reading had to bore through his lawn.
I grew up on Mount Tamalpais, and I remember the wild boars being an issue. I still let's leave the images and go back. I know we've got some questions. Yeah, people are seeing them. That's one Charlotte's Web. It's interesting though that you've done photography all over the world, but we're particularly nervous about this. Have you done a lot of work with animals before? I think of you as hanging off the side of a cliff.
Yeah, more likely than, but I have worked with animals quite a bit over the years. And when I'm doing a geographic, not a National Geographic, but any story where animals are, I shot a lot of them photographed a lot of them in Antarctica and up north, and I live near Yellowstone. So I love shooting animals, but I'm not Franz Lanting in his ability to just spend enormous amounts of time coming back with. So it was a challenge for me.
Are you kind of, now that first of all, which came first, the photos or the article? When you're assigned,
I had the article.
Oh, you had the kind of almost finished.
Or I had it, yeah, I had a rough draft of the article, and as I say, my biggest disappointment was she was quoting very articulate people in the various agencies, and they were very helpful until I said, "Can I get any picture?" Well, most of them were sure, yeah, we can do it. And the second their higher ups heard it, it was like, no.
Why?
I think because they're afraid of PETA and the blood and gore, and they'd rather just go about it without public harassment.
So there are organizations that are attempting to curb that.
They trap them and I think shoot them, which is what they didn't want me to see.
But this is happening.
It is happening. And I think it's going to have to happen on a bigger scale. I mean, especially around the communities, some of them in around Walnut Creek and all over the state, really, where it's going to take some kind of organized shoot to turn them back.
When I'm curious, you had mentioned earlier when we were chatting that you got absolutely filthy in this. Oh. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And if you were so far, how did that happen? If you were kind of zooming in on these pigs from far away?
Well, it was actually on the ranch where I was taking pictures of Wilbur there. We saw with the big tusks, huge tusks in the cage, and it was pouring rain. It was one of those days that the rain avalanche just came through here. But it was the only day he could do it. So we were out there and he hadn't shown up yet. And so I was photographing the pig and getting soaked. And then I realized I was walking around in pig manure and mud and getting it all over me. I still haven't gotten it out of my car. And there's a pair of shoes that still has a fair amount of that gunked into it.
How long did the story, did photographing the story take from start to finish? From the moment you said, okay, John, I'll do the pigs, to submitting your images?
I think it was about 3 weeks.
And how long were you out there with, you were out for a day?
I was out a couple of days with Sean, a couple of days with the rancher, and then I did some driving around to find photos of the damage they do. And I wanted to go down and shoot agency people, but we finally punted on that.
No dice. Deborah asks, where did these pigs come from originally? Do we know? And I think that's covered in the article. They were imported from Spanish colonists.
Yeah, the Spanish imported them into Florida very early on. They've crossed the country, but the particular California Russian boars, there was a rancher down near San Luis Obispo, apparently, who imported Russian boars to shoot them on his land, and they've interbred with the other hogs. Even a hog from a sty, if it gets away, it would probably join one of these groups and grow tusks. And they're not that different from the pigs that are in a sty.
Well, no, I was shocked to learn actually that a pig, a domesticated pig, or Peppa, as I would think of pigs. Once that escapes into the wild and becomes kind of feral, they grow the wild coarse hair and the tusks, and they kind of quickly adapt to this wild feral environment.
Well, they're very intelligent creatures. I think that's pretty well known.
And well, they did a pretty good job of hiding from you.
They sure did a good job of hiding from me and almost anybody else who hunts them. I do have a friend who hunts them, bow hunts them, and that's real epic.
What?
But actually, he's been hunting. He sometimes goes down to the Tajon Ranch, which is one of the largest land holdings in California. And they have organized hunting when they have hundreds and hundreds of these things on their land, and you pay a premium and you get a hunting permit to go out there. And but they wouldn't let me anywhere. Denise had talked to them. They refused to talk to her. They would have been very helpful. But that's where I found the rancher who could give me a similar opportunity.
What do people, when people hire someone like Sean, what are they use? And probably not photographing boars for a magazine. What are they usually doing? Is this just for sport? Are they using it for food? I feel like I've had wild
some people
boars
use it.
Go.
I think most people who shoot one do use it as food. I don't think that they, but there are problems. I mean, we'd have a great solution if we could shoot and market these things, but the USDA regulations insist that it be tested for disease before it's killed. Well, you're not going to go out and test this pig before you shoot it, and which is unfortunate, but there may be a way around that.
I do want to encourage everyone to read Denise's article because it's packed with so many things. But before we go, Gordon, I do want to touch on a couple of highlights from your non-hog based career. We were talking about, I'm so used to seeing you and your work. We did an event with Gordon several years ago, pre-pandemic times. You were in conversation with your longtime colleague and friend, Will Hurst, our publisher. And you did kind of a slideshow presentation at the Leica store in downtown San Francisco about your career. That was really fun. Can you talk a little bit about what was your most, I'm sure you get these questions all the time, but they're fun. What was the most dangerous expedition you've ever been on?
The most dangerous one was one of the last big wall climbing stories I did. We had just climbed the southernmost big wall together with Alex Lowe and Conrad Anker. Had climbed the southernmost big wall ever attempted in Antarctica. My movie got up at, which was my National Geographic cover story. And then, so now I'm pegged at doing this. And so they tacked me on with another expedition with Alex to climb a 4,000-foot overhanging cliff way north of the Arctic Circle. That would be at that point the northernmost climb. And it took us 6 weeks. We spent 10 days living in portaledges.
Can you tell people what a portaledge is?
A portaledge is it's like a cot with a tent on it, and it's suspended by straps, and you anchor it into something in the wall, either a bolt that you drill into the wall or a piton or a nut or something, a whole bunch of them. Actually, you want to be pretty safe. And then you just sleep inside, and one of my favorite photos were like 3,000 feet off the ground. But you'd think it was terrifying to be inside one, but if you're willing to get up that high, it's much more comfortable to be inside it than outside it and risking your life during the climb or whatever.
But so that was your most
well, the reason it was so dangerous, it was in the spring, and these mountains are relatively young, glaciers are retreating, and there were rocks falling off every cliff all the time. I watched one the size of a Cadillac come down near us, from a couple thousand feet up the wall. And so melting ice and falling rock, it's the thing that terrifies me most. And I almost got nailed several times. And by that time, I'm not that kind of world-class mountaineer. I'm tough and I can take care of myself and get around. But I realized I wanted to do something different. And sure enough, the partner on that expedition, Alex Lowe, was killed 2 years later. Oh, there you go.
This is one of you. This is for National Geographic.
Yeah, that's the picture I was talking about, right?
Oh,
there.
great.
Yeah, I'm dangling. I've had to fix a contraption to hold me out from the wall, and I'm dangling on a rope. And as I was trying to take the picture, I was kept twirling, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't touch the wall, so I'd have to shoot. I just have to get totally ready, and I'd twist around in the right direction, go bam, 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 shoot 3 pictures, and then shoot another. But it worked out great.
This is just gives me the willies. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Wow, Gordon is a beast. Do you have is there an assignment that you'd love to do again? I realize that you're, obviously you're still in the throes of your career, and I've been pitching you today even that you need to write a memoir, a kind of visual coffee table memoir.
I'm slowly working on that.
Good. Is there any assignment, one you would do again, something that you wish, before you wrap it all up, that is on your dream list to revisit?
My dream list would be the Darhad Valley in Mongolia. I spent 2 months there documenting a migration of 5,000 people and 100,000 animals, like in medieval times. I mean, they're modern, they're well educated. And it was step back in time, riding a horse for the first time. But I had all kinds of help. Mongolian, the governor was one of my guides, former governor, and I had a professor who was working in that area. And then I had a Mongolian young woman as a guide who was doing research there. So everybody knew everybody. I actually learned to speak passable Mongolian in this time that I was there. I always make an effort to learn the language, and I do. I speak Nepali pretty well.
One of the things you mentioned in your conversation that we did at the Leica store with Will Hurst was that part of your job, especially when you're on a mountaineering expedition with climbers and athletes, or immersing yourself in a culture like you were just speaking about, that in addition to taking photos, you do so much work being part of the team and kind of being part of the community you're with. And that allows you to have more intimate access in terms of your photography.
Well, one of the legendary editors at National Geographic called expedition photography the hardest, because the time is most important to shoot pictures when all hell is breaking loose and something's happening. And so that's happened to me on a few occasions, and I try to join the group, and instead I should be shooting pictures. I had one opening spread in National Geographic that was Will Steger, the polar dog sledder, and his sled was going through the ice at the North Pole. It's like 10,000 feet deep and 1,600-pound sled, and I was pulling on the rope with them, and Steger, who's well aware of publicity, said, "Take pictures, take pictures." Sure enough.
Was he okay?
Yeah, we got it out. It would have been a real disaster. It would have been the end of the expedition.
Wild. You can understand, obviously, this is like the tip of the Gordon Wiltsie iceberg of stories that this amazing gentleman has about his work. So I'm looking forward to, it's an honor always, Gordon, to have you in the pages of Alta Journal. Thank you for taking on.
Thank you, Beth. I really enjoyed this.
Before everyone goes, I'd like to invite you to join us next week, where we're going to talk about, we're going to kind of keep this environmental theme going, the disappearing kelp forest off the California coast. It's actually shocking. 95% of the kelp forests off of the Central and Mendocino coastline of California have disappeared. And we're going to speak with Reef Check's Dan Abbott about that. So please do join us next week. That's Wednesday, May 18th at 12:30. We'll send you a link to that, a link to this interview, a link to Denise Hamilton's article, California's Going Hog Wild, as well as a link to buy Gordon's amazing book. So check your email later today for that. Again, Gordon, it's always an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. It was my pleasure too.
Thanks all. Take care.
Bye.